Hey guys, hey friends. Welcome to another episode of Sips and Trips with me, Jennifer, aka Red Lips and Passports. And I'm just waiting for my girl Tania to join. We have a fun filled episode for us tonight. It's actually going to be our first time speaking with a male. We are going to be talking to Next Stop Success and just kind of getting his perspective on what it's like to be a black male globetrotter. So Tania will be joining me momentarily. Thank you guys again for joining us for another episode. Second, Tania will be joining. Hey, friend.
Hi, how are y'all?
I'm so jealous that it's still light outside there.
Oh yeah, I forgot it is like 9 p.m. there, but I'm in the south, so it's definitely staying. We have a lot of sunshine. Like it doesn't get dark outside till like 8:30, 9 o'clock. What time does it typically get dark there?
Um, Probably about 8 o'clock.
Okay, so around the
Yeah,
same. Okay.
about the same. So how are you? I'm really excited to talk today.
I am. Let me tell you why I'm so excited about tonight's guest. A big reason why I'm so excited is because not only is he a male, it's our first male guest, and we definitely are going to do a better job making sure that we are catering to our male audience as well. But not just that, he's also in school, like he's a mental health professional. For those of you that don't know, I'm also a licensed therapist. So knowing that tonight we have a guest on that is also in the mental health field, he's getting his doctorate, and so I'll let him kind of share more about who he is when he hops on. But I'm super excited because I feel like for me, travel and mental health go together. If you've been following my journey for a long time, I kind of became a travel influencer and travel blogger simply because I was depressed. My best friend was depressed, and we started a blog called the Sparkle Files. It was just going to be a lifestyle blog, but somehow it became a blog to kind of help us find our happiness again, kind of the Sparkle Files. And I was posting so much about travel that I kind of just landed on the travel blogger and travel influencer side. And this was before Instagram was really a thing. Like this blog was like 2014, 2015-ish. Instagram then was just you posting your cute pictures. And so now for it to have expanded and for me to still be in this space and for me to be a therapist and part of my therapy and coping is travel, I'm excited for us to bring on another mental health professional.
I'm really, really excited for partially for the same reason, but mainly because for me, is because he's a male and it's our first male guest. So we're going to go ahead and invite him to join us. So hopefully he accepts our invitation and we can go ahead and get started. Hi.
Hi, Destin.
What's
How
up,
are
y'all? What's
you?
going on?
It's good to meet you in person. I only follow your content, so this is our first like real life conversation. So how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It was good to see y'all's introduction. Like I got a little bit of insight into who y'all are. It was dope.
Thank you. And so, for those of you who are just joining, I'm Tania the author, and Travels by Tania on Instagram. We have Destin, Next Stop Success, and we have Jennifer, Red Lips and Passport. So this is the tonight's show. So we always start off by introducing our sips first. So who wants to get started sharing what they are sipping on?
Go
Jennifer
ahead,
always
Destin. You can
has
go
the
first.
creative stuff,
That's
but
funny because I literally said like I didn't know we was gonna be drinking for real, but I can go grab some real quick to be a part of the club. But no,
go
I'm
ahead
with
and
all
go
that.
grab some.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Okay, guys, just give me like 2 seconds.
Okay, and while Destin is grabbing what he's drinking, we're gonna let Jennifer go ahead because she always do fancy stuff. When y'all see what I'm drinking, y'all gonna realize. Go ahead, Jennifer.
It ain't fancy at all. It's just a non-alcoholic, alcohol removed Cabernet Sauvignon, and you would be surprised that it's actually pretty good. This is like the first red that I've had that is alcohol removed that is actually pretty good. And I got it from Total Wine. It actually, if you guys remember, we did an episode where we chatted with Breakfast with Tiffany about credit cards. She and I went to a concert a few weeks ago, and she bought this for us to take to the concert.
Okay, that
Yeah.
sounds fun.
And what do you
Destin,
have?
what'd you go grab?
See, I'm a lot less sophisticated. I got some tequila, and that's just what we're gonna do today.
If you see, I wasn't going to say that was less sophisticated. If you would have said that you got a lime marita, then I would have been like, oh Lord.
No. Listen, I'm too old for that. No. That's funny.
So, what I'm drinking is not sophisticated at all, and I do not care. It has been a rough week. This is what we drinking. If you've ever had experience with this, you know that it just kind of lands you where it lands you. The first time I had Capriccio.
Girl, first of all, I didn't even know that's how you called it. Okay, I think I was calling it Capsio for years.
Right. That might not be right.
No, I remember when that first hit the scene. It would get you messed up.
Yeah,
it would definitely put you where you need to be. So we're just going to call it a way back Wednesday drink.
Okay, because I know when I first had it at a wedding. I remember the next morning waking up asking, how I get home? Like, how y'all say I got home?
No, right though.
That's when you wake up, but somehow you still wake up with like your hair tied, your phone on the charge, your pajamas on, and I'm like, last I remember, I was getting another one from the bar, so I don't know possibly how.
That's a good night. Here. Listen, that's a good night.
For real. And so, what were you gonna say, Jennifer?
I was gonna say, so Destin, did you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So, my name is Destin. I am a doctoral student at the University of Kentucky studying counseling psychology. Some of the things I'm interested in is I'm interested in Black folks, particularly interested in Black culture. So I love music, song, dance, anything that got to do with Blackness. I'm trying to become an expert in it. So that's what I like to do. I also got popping on TikTok via travel content and via therapy content. So it was a little bit of both. So I got to almost conjoin two of the worlds that I love into one thing, and just that's what I do now. I post hella stuff on TikTok about Black mental health. I post hella stuff about my travel experiences and the things that I've done. So that's a little bit about me. I'm from Atlanta. Went to UGA for undergrad. Go Dogs! 2-time champs. But that's a little bit about me.
Okay, well, Destin, we're definitely happy to have you. I can say how I found you. Honestly, I found you because I'm a traveling therapist, and so I came across your page, and I'm like, wait a minute. This man has been in my head. He stole what I wanted to do. But I don't share as much about the therapy side of my life because I just don't. But I also know that you share a lot of fun content about therapy, traveling, and you're also in school, right?
Yeah, I'm in school right now. Yeah.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that because I'm impressed at how you keep up with traveling and all these things you do. And you're also a doctoral student?
Yep, doctoral student. Yep. So I'm a doctoral student studying counseling psychology, and I would say I'm enjoying it right now. By virtue of me doing counseling psychology, I have a practicum that I have to do, and my practicum sites that I do is therapy. So I did college counseling so far. Last year I did community mental health, and next year I'm doing the VA. So I've been rotating into different spaces, just trying to see what I want to do. But I mean, I started traveling during the pandemic. Officially busting down countries. I started traveling during the pandemic. It was cheap. I was in the house, and all my classes were online. So at that point, I was like, yeah, let's run that up because it's boring.
Right.
And then from there, it just kind of became a thing in terms of it's a part of my life now. I gotta travel for my own wellness, my happiness. You realize there's so much more to this world than what we've been exposed to throughout our lives. You're like, man, the American point of view is so small because there's so much more to life. So I end up falling in love with it. I love traveling. I think it makes me so happy, actually.
That's a conversation that Jennifer and I had today, of kind of my traveling journey. I realized that traveling is linked to my mental health. Yeah, I don't want to cry in the States. I want to go cry in South Africa and get myself together in South Africa. I don't want to get myself together in Houston. It's not the same thing. Let me go get myself together at a World Wonder. What were you going to say, Jen?
Yeah.
The tears flow better when they in another country. When they flown in another country, they flow a lot better. Listen. I know for me personally, this is not recommended by any doctor, so please do not follow my lead. But for me, when I am traveling, I don't need to take my mental health medication, and I don't because it really does. But at the moment I get back, I'm back on it, got to take my meds or whatever. But it really does change it just changes everything for me. The endorphins, you know what I mean? it really is my happy place. And I noticed that when we were in, I was one of those people who did not travel during when we were all in quarantine. But it really did mess with my mental health, not having anywhere to go, not having anything to look forward to.
Yeah, for sure.
Let me tell you something. Oh, well, go ahead. I could go back to quarantine, because when I tell you I was flying first class and living my best life, I was going places for $72. I get it. People struggle. That wasn't my testimony.
I missed out. Like, that is the one thing I regret. I regret not, but people was like, "Oh yeah, I went to South Africa for $7."
Yeah.
What? Nah, I second that. Like, I would go back to the pandemic like easily, because now even with traveling and stuff too, like there's more like tourists out now. You on planes, like you in the middle seat again. Like they didn't have no middle seat. It was luxury. Right. Like I loved it.
I was never in the middle seat. Even now. Okay. One thing about me is I ain't getting in no middle seat. This little boy looked at me the other day. He was sitting next to me. He looked like he was about to park his lips to ask me, could he have the window seat? Absolutely not.
Well, let me tell y'all something about me, and I'm going to be honest. I'm the person that I don't care how I get there. I could get there Spirit. I could get there Frontier. I don't care how I get there. And so you can give me a middle seat. I flew Spirit. I flew first class. I do not care. During the pandemic, there were $43 flights from Houston to Cancun round trip Spirit. I do not care. If you can give me to Cancun for $43, I will walk. So if I have to stand in the Spirit aisle, I remember when Spirit first started flying to Las Vegas from Houston, flights were like $25. I'm going to go, and I'm going to figure it out later. So
yeah, for sure.
I feel you on that with Spirit, with Frontier. Absolutely. That the experience I had with them earlier this year completely turned me off. But I always say that if the flight is $20 with Spirit, I will chop my legs off and sew them back on when I get there. Because I ain't never had a bad experience with Spirit before.
No, facts though, facts.
So Destin, it's interesting that you did not start traveling until COVID. So how did that experience get started? Like, they were advising us not to travel. So I didn't listen for the record, but the fact that you as a new traveler decided this one I'm a chance it. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I would say, I grew up with like a traveling family. My mom worked for Delta, so I had like flight benefits up until I was like 10. So my mom would take us to like Hawaii as a kid, Virgin Islands, we went to Canada, Mexico. Like we'd on vacations out there. But I remember she ended up losing her job or whatever, something with the recession or whatever happened with that. But so I misspoke then. So my first time traveling like as an adult, I remember it was my senior year of college. And me and my best friend went to Jamaica. Like we graduated college. We wanted to go see what Jamaica was like. Had a friend who was from Jamaica and they went back home because we all graduated. I ended up going to Jamaica, man. And like them Jamaicans rocked my world so hard. I said, I got to see what everybody else talking about. So after that, I went to Thailand, which was a big jump too, right? Because it's like, man, like Thailand is halfway across the world. Thailand was just top 2 best countries out there. Like I think Thailand is amazing. I went there. And then after that, I went to Brazil. And I remember March 13th, I was in Brazil. That's when everything got shut down. So I had to like get rushed home after that because, they were shutting down like New York and Miami. Like they was canceling so many flights. So I had to get back home. But long story short, in the pandemic, I ended up moving to Kentucky because this is where I started school. And then, from there on, it was like I was in the house, I was bored, and I had money. And I was just like, oh, these flights are looking too good for me to pass up on. And I just started running it up after that. I was like, I can do work, what I'm saying, abroad. If I'm, like y'all said, if I'm be stressed out, I might as well be stressed out
somewhere else
in Mexico. You know what I mean? Yeah, not here in my apartment. So yeah, it ended up working out well for me. But I would say the introduction to traveling in terms of like during the pandemic, I loved it. I feel like the pace of traveling during the pandemic was it was amazing. It was more intimate, it felt like to me.
Yeah,
it was dope.
For sure. And I feel like too, airline stewardess and just people were just nicer, because it wasn't only it was about 10 of us on the plane. They're coming and bringing you liquor. Like they don't care where you sit. You get whole rows to yourself to take naps. Like it was phenomenal. And a lot of people, if we could bring back the shutdown without the crisis part of it, the death and all that, I could do another round. Maybe
listen, I would absolutely take it again, as long as we can not have like the bad stuff associated with it.
Yeah.
So how many different places, how many different countries did you visit during that time?
Whew. You know, I've had times, I don't know. So I moved to Kentucky in 2020. I know I ran up 2020. I probably would say I, I at this point I'm at 26. That means during the pandemic, I probably got at least 12, 13 countries under my belt type thing.
I'm
Wow.
at 26. I'm like
Okay.
right under 30, but I've been traveling for 10 years. So that's amazing that
That's
you've been able to rack it
huge.
up. Yeah. And so
For sure.
one thing I kind of want to touch on. So when the pandemic hit, I was in Mexico. Like I went to Mexico on a solo trip and I came home. Tell me what it was like being across the ocean, like somewhere far to where, what was that like being told like you have a certain time limit to get home or you might as well get you a job over here and figure it out?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so the interesting thing about that study that is like before I left, like we heard about COVID, you know what I mean, but nobody actually took it serious. It was kind of like, man, here they go, you know what I mean? Here they go trying to make some big. So I remember when I left, which was probably like before we ended up having to come back home. But I remember I left and I heard about it. And you kind of brush to the back of your head. You don't really like think about it. And I remember the night before, they was like, y'all need to go up tonight because they shutting the whole city down. It was Rio. They shutting the whole Rio down. So I remember we went, and Rio was just insane. Like they have a good time out there. And I remember having to, like, the next day, they was like, yeah, everything shut down. The city was shut down. Nobody was allowed on the beach. Like, it was completely like ghost town. And I would say we probably stayed in the hostel for about 2 days after that. And then we came home. And I remember like the panic because our flight had got canceled and we had to like reroute to like Miami and then get to Atlanta. It was a lot going on in terms of that. But I ain't gonna lie, I didn't believe it. I was kind of like, here they go. They just been, America being so extra about everything. They didn't know that deep. Like, because hindsight is 2020, nobody could even prepare for what was about to come. So in my head, I was kind of being like a douche about it. I was like, I can't believe they ruining my vacation. I got to stay in. You know, I'm thinking solely about my own experience, not realizing like what the world is actually about to go through. So it was an interesting introduction. Like in hindsight, I was like, I'm looking back like, dang, I was kind of being an asshole about it. But I was pissed off. I was in Brazil and it kind of ended a little soon. Yeah, I got to go back. And at that point, I had just graduated, so I was living with my mom. So I wasn't even at my own spots. I was 10 times pissed off about it. But it ended up working out though. I want to go back to Brazil. Hopefully I get another Brazil trip in soon.
It's funny you say that because Jennifer and I are actually going to Brazil with a group trip I'm leading in September. We're super excited to hear how lit it is and all that kind of stuff because it'll be my
amazing.
first trip to Brazil. Yours too, Jen?
Oh yes, it'll be my first time in South America, so I'm excited.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
Oh
yeah, that should be fun. And you know what's crazy is I think that when you travel, you realize how different countries view certain things. So one of the places people found out about, there are people that already knew, but one of the places that blew up during the pandemic was Zanzibar. You know, everybody started going to Tanzania, started going to Zanzibar. And when I got there, I had a bad day at work. If you heard me tell this story before, I'm sorry. I like this story. So basically, I had a bad day at work. At this time, I was a school counselor. I knew I had to start wrapping it up because COVID, the pandemic, made me realize I didn't need to be in anybody's office all day. Like, what y'all need me to come up there for? Type attitude.
Yeah.
Like, y'all can call me in my house and I can do the same thing. Like, I don't, I'm putting on clothes. I'm driving up there. Y'all are really doing a lot. So I guess my principal probably had pissed me off. My friend texted me. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, getting ready. I'm booking a trip to Zanzibar. She's like, right now, I'm like, yeah. And she's like, I want to go. I said, okay. And I was like, I don't really have a lot of money. We about to figure it out. Air affordable, Afterpay, Klarna, whatever it takes. We about to get to Zanzibar. And literally a month and a half later, we were in Zanzibar, but we landed there and they would check your temperature and give you hand sanitizer at every location, but nobody was wearing masks. This was summer 2021. We're still in the thick of things. And we would have conversations with people and they'll be like, you know, well, it's not real what we're seeing on the news. People are not really dying. Like, nobody's dying here. It's fine. And I'm like, no, in America and around, we dying for real. You know, I've lost family members. People like, this is a big deal. And they was like, no, it's not. And I'm like, they're like, the numbers are real. And I'm like, absolutely. But they were basically unscathed by COVID. which is kind of the reason why people started traveling there, because they were wide open. And so that was 2 weeks of us not wearing masks, and it was literally one of the best 2 weeks of my life.
Yeah, I feel the same thing with when I went to Turks and Caicos. You know, Turks is only probably about 17 miles wide as a country. And they said they only had like 17 deaths in total when I went there, and I was just like, they were like, nobody really here got sick for real. It wasn't a big deal, and I was like, oh wow, because back at home, oh, it's an ordeal.
This is for real.
Everything is
Yeah.
it's for real. Yeah.
I think that Zanzibar maybe had like 2 or 3 people die, to be honest. And I think that forgive me, I'm going to sound ignorant. I don't know what like their leader is called, their president or someone of that area. He died, but they think that he was poisoned because no one else really passed of COVID. And so it was kind of like they're watching these numbers, and we know how the media can be with a lot of things. And because that was not their experience with COVID. You drinking straight tequila?
Yeah, I ain't got no chaser.
Oh, we're gonna be talking then. Like we going okay.
Who raised you? Like what?
I don't keep no juice in the house, so it's kind of like you come here is.
So
Put a lemon in it or
house,
something.
I
know you got all the hair on your chest now.
Did you put some water in it?
No, I straight.
Oh, okay. Well, we got Doc on the Rocks that's joined us. She's another professional that believes in drinks on the rocks, so that's clearly your people.
Oh my God.
Listen, see, we here.
Okay, and so with you kind of starting to travel during COVID, thus far, what do you feel like has been one of your favorite destinations?
It's easy for me. So I have a solid like top 3, but I would say that my number 1 is Senegal, West Africa. Like I went there for about 10 days. My brother's best friend is Senegalese, and I've known this man whole life. Like we went to high school together type thing. But you know, I think when I was in high school, like we didn't really think about like folks being like African or Black American. We always kind of Black. But I guess getting older, like his name is we called him Diop growing up because his name is spelled D-I-O-P. Whole time we get to Senegal, his name is actually pronounced Jope. Bro, my mind is blown. I'm like, bro, why you let us call you Diop this whole time?
Right.
The man, like, I ain't really care. I'm like, nah, Jope. So I call him Jope now. But essentially, man, he took us out there, and them people took amazing care of. I mean, 10 days of them, like, almost like showing us different aspects of the country, like welcoming us with open arms. It's my first time being on the continent of Africa too. Man, amazing. That's my favorite country. I would go back at a heartbeat. I would move to Senegal. I don't know. Have y'all been to Senegal?
Oh, wow.
Never been to Senegal, but that's how I felt about South Africa. The first time I went to South Africa, I was like, I could live here.
Yeah, for real.
That welcome home, they tell you when you land in Africa, it's something about that welcome home from Africa. You know, we all know that we have African origins. That welcome home is different.
It does hit different. I thought I was the only one who felt like that, but it really does hit different when they say that. And I was just like, I don't know how to explain it. The first time I went to Africa, I went to Morocco for a wedding. Yeah. And when we landed and I got off the plane, I was like, I am really in Africa. Like, I don't know. It just made me think about the whole, like, I'm my ancestors' wildest dreams. It really hit me hard at that moment because I know my grandparents never thought that one of their grandchildren would be like, you know, back in the motherland. I don't know. It was a big deal. It was very like sentimental for me.
No, I second that.
Same. And I know my first trip to Africa, my sisters and I took a trip. We went Egypt, Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Dubai.
Oh, damn.
So again, this is the whole thing. Like we were all in the education space. And so summers we had off. And so summers, like if I'm going to fly that far, I'm going to take full advantage. Can y'all hear me still?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
These headphones are horrible. They keep falling out my ear. It's the beat ones. Don't get them. Okay. And so we went Egypt. Again, I was expecting there to be Black people that look like us. But that's not what it was when I went to Egypt. And so, you know, learning about the pyramids, walking in and out of that, but it wasn't like African Black people. It's nothing like that. And so then landing in Johannesburg and getting off the plane and they're like, welcome home. And then like hanging out, you know, we went to Soweto. to visit Nelson Mandela's original residence where he grew up, and like that's kind of like your, not the hood, but like that's the area where they're coming through with like the cars. It's probably a car wash there, like everybody chilling. It's the day parties. It's all those different things. It's like it's good times, but they also tell you know, if you're not local, it may not necessarily be a safe area for you to stay in because this is where things go on. And so one of the things, so we're out there and I'm like, oh, this is my scene. We got the cars coming down the street, playing loud music, people dancing. Like we're at this point we're like on the second floor of a restaurant. We're looking over the balcony and I'm like, oh my God. Like I walked through Nelson Mandela's house. I see all this culture. Yeah. Everybody is having fun. And everybody is telling you, welcome home, sister. Hey, how are you? And I'm like, I'm really at home for real. And then to get to South Africa, to get to Cape Town. And like, not only, first off, let me start here. You're rich. Like $20 go real far now.
Baby.
Like $20, let me tell you something. So you already rich. So not only are you able to pop bottles and live the best life, you also, it felt like home.
I'm trying to go to
Cape Town for a month. Like that's my goal for probably January. But just being there, and then we're eating at Noble, we're partying, we're on the beaches, we're going to the wineries, and everybody looks like you. And
you only spending $5.
But I'm balling, like I'm spending $5. Like you get a drink, bring us the bottle, and I didn't spend $25.
Listen, my best friend, I'm pretty sure he's on here, but my best friend, he's obsessed with South Africa. So this is the audience census. I bet that man needs to even want to go even more. But I touch and agree though, like same experience. I remember like driving into the car, my head on the window, I'm looking out, I'm romanticizing this experience so much. I'm like, this is crazy. I'm trying to play I got my Afrobeat scene. I'm listening to Tim's. She had just dropped that project. Hey, it was a great trip. But when we first got there, I ain't gonna lie, I was culture shocked. Like we went into like, he kind of took us to the hood, like you said. But what shocked me was like, they took us upstairs and they had like a rooftop. It had like these hella goats. I'm out here taking pictures with the goats. And, you know, I'm a city boy. I don't do no type of cows, goats, and none of that. But then it was like, oh yeah, we just killed one this morning. I'm like, wait a minute, what you mean you just killed it? Yeah, it was like, yeah, like they got food ready for us to eat right now. We go down there. And like a big pot of food. Everybody eats with their hands. So what we did was we all just kind of sat down, ate with our hands. Now me, the American in me, I'm like, I'm not about to share no plate with nobody. That ain't about to happen, right? Listen, I was humble the whole 10 days. I ain't have a plate to myself, not one day on that trip. We all ate together. And I think that's the beautifulness behind the culture, like Senegalese culture though, because we all ate, and then it's Senegalese like tradition to invite people in the community. So like somebody's walking by, they're like, hey, do you want something to eat? Like that's that collectivism piece that we don't get in America. But like when I first was there, I was shocked at first. I was like, what you mean I ain't getting no separate plate? But it was like, nah, wash your hands, come sit right here. We all about to eat as a family. That was something that was special to me. But I was shocked at first. I ain't gonna hold you, like the adjustment. I got back home excited to have my own plate. I was like, you know what? That ain't too bad. But I'm gonna stick with my own plate.
Exactly. And you know, when you travel all over the world, one of my favorite things is that you realize how much other cultures value the dinner experience. Whether you're going to Dubai, whether you're going to South Africa, whether you're going to Europe, dinner is not just you're over here watching TV, you're over here on your phone. It's an experience. People are sitting down, they are having conversations, you know, they are sharing food, they are drinking tea. Dinner is multiple courses. And that's one of my favorite things that I enjoy about traveling is in America, you know, we are who we are. We know what American culture looks like. But traveling to other cultures and getting to experience how much time they spend actually being involved in what the rest of their family members are doing or how much they value family or even that togetherness with dinner. When people come to my house, they know we sit down and eat. I may have whatever, you know, because I'm the person's house. So I live in the middle of the city. And so when people are in Midtown, they typically be like, hey, I'm by your house. Now, I'm not going to lie to y'all and say I'm just this phenomenal cook, but I know how to put some stuff together. If I have a Hello Fresh meal I haven't cooked, you're going to go ahead and get you a little Hello Fresh. If I got some sausage I can boil, you're going to get you a nice sausage sandwich. You know, like whatever I got, we're going to have a spread. Now, it's going to be a random spread, but I'm big on us sitting down and eating dinner. If you're in my house, we eat at the table. And so going to other countries and seeing not just bunch of people at the table, the entire family. and you're talking, like you said, the neighborhood, and you are truly talking about what's going on in the community, what's going on with you. People are truly giving advice. Those are the kind of things that I value about my travel experiences.
I second that. I second that. Even in Senegal, you're right about that talking experience because I didn't speak a lick of French or Wolof, which is their native language, and yet we talked that whole dinner. You know,
I'm telling you,
we made it work, and it was kind of like, oh yeah, for sure, like that's what we're gonna do. Okay, that's a part of the vibe. I
Food is a
completely
universal language, right? We all got to eat, right?
Yeah.
It is a beautiful thing. I think one of the things so when I went to Morocco, I was very new to the travel game. I think I had only been to 3 other countries prior to, and it was really confusing to me. Everywhere we went, they offered us the mint tea, the Moroccan mint tea.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until like a couple of days I was like, wait a minute, they want us to feel welcome. Like this is them like showing like, you know, we're thankful for you being here. Let me offer you some tea. You know, when you walk into a store, and unless you're at like a high-end store, you know, when you go to a high-end store, they're offering you whatever, Chick-fil-A lemonade, Moet, like whatever to get the sale. But but when you go into Target or some other random boutique, nobody's checking for you to give you some water or anything like that. So it was like mind-blowing to me how, I don't want to say they were welcoming, yes, but it was just very interesting because I had never experienced that. You know, I had never experienced that before. One of the things that we wanted to ask you was, as an educated Black male here in America, no matter how educated you are, sometimes people do not care to hear your opinion, and we are still not respected by certain people.
Especially after this foolishness we went through this week. I'm not going to do that tonight.
Listen,
I'm
on the same. I hear you. I know where you go.
I mean, we can
say
talk
that.
about it because I told Tania, I was like, I want to talk about it.
I'm angry.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. That's all I'm saying. I hear you.
Ask your question. We might circle back to that, but ask your question because when we go on that, I'm going to go. But go ahead.
What do you notice the difference is as an educated Black man here in America and then when you are in other countries? Do you feel you're treated differently? Is it about the same? What are your thoughts?
It's interesting. I think it depends primarily on the country because I guess I'm privileged to say like I haven't had many negative experiences abroad.
Same.
And that can be because of the time I'm there. It can be because people think that I'm American and thus I have money. I don't know. It could be a bunch of different things, but 99.5% of my experience abroad have been really positive. Whereas I think in the States, like I've had some really like controversial experiences just by living here and operating in the space of academia, like my PhD program. Like those things bring a lot of complexity to the experience. But I think that overall, I would say, you know, what I've learned from traveling the world in terms of all these different spaces and how people treat you is that people are overarchingly good. And I think the media can kind of sometimes forget that, like, we get blasted on news for like deaths and murders and robberies and all these things. But like when I go abroad, or even sometimes when I'm at home, like these people are going out of their way to make sure that I know where this location is, or they're going out of their way to make sure that I'm fed, I got the best restaurant locations, or whatever the case may be. So I've been blessed to really see the positive ends of the world or the positive experience of the world by traveling, because I think it's really hard not to be pessimistic. Like we said, seeing the news that we saw today, like this is certain stuff that is like, man, I'm glad that I got the experience of travel because I wouldn't have it for the world. Like I would be kind of over it, you know. So I've learned that like I think the world is a good place, but we just blasted with a lot. Well, maybe not the world not a good place. It's full of good people, but we're kind of blasted with that negative side of it.
Oh no, I totally agree. I told Tania today, for me personally, especially where I currently live, I experience a lot of racism. And so when people ask me like, oh, which country have you been to where you experience the most racism? And I'm like, the United States.
America.
Because when I go elsewhere, I am not treated that way. I might have had like maybe 1 or 2 experiences abroad that were just like one-offs, but I always feel safer in other countries, and I feel a lot more respected in other countries than I do here.
And I will say this too, you know, just kind of being a woman and traveling to other countries to where you've been told that they're misogynistic in these things. I feel like the conversations I have in other countries, like they're listening to me, I'm listening to them, because we come from two different spaces, and like being able to compare our worlds and kind of talk about the key differences and things that we experience, and even them hearing from somebody that live in America, because the only experience that we have to a lot of places is what we see in the media, and that's also their experience. They're not talking to Americans every day, so being able to sit down and have these conversations and hear people's other viewpoints, I realize too sometimes that the same way that America makes places look ignorant, we look ignorant to a lot of places too with some of the decisions that we make. And when the news today I'm not
No,
this is Capriccio. It's not me. It's this Capriccio. It's not me. It's not because
I just got back from St. Martin. And I met the guy who was our photographer. He was raving about the pizza in Antigua, right? He was like, "Oh, you got to come to Antigua." He's from Antigua. He flew to St. Martin just for our photos. And so he said, "Oh, you guys got to try the pizza in Antigua." And we were like, I said, "Well, how many places have you traveled to and you had pizza that you're saying Antigua has the best pizza?" And he said, "Not that many places." And I said, "Have you ever been?" Have you ever been to the United States? And he was like, "No." And I have no desire to go because he said, CNN just makes y'all look like y'all a little. And I was like, CNN ain't lying. Like, you know what I mean? And I was like, but I never really thought about how we look. Well, let me not lie. My first trip.
Somebody in the comments said the pizza's terrible from there.
Terrible. I'm from there. I just read that one too.
Oh my God!
Know about the pizza we have here.
So anyway, the first trip I ever took internationally was exactly 7 days after the 2016 election, right? And when I was meeting people and they were like, "Oh, where you from?" And I was like, "I'm from the States." And they were like, "What happened? Why y'all do that?" Like they felt so sorry for us, right? Then I saw a clip about how there's, we have travel warnings about visiting other countries. Who knew the United States was on the do not travel list? Like,
no way.
It was I was so embarrassed. Like, the United States?
Whoa, that's crazy.
I believe it.
No, for real. But guess what the reason is? Guess why they say don't come or be careful?
Racial relations.
Mass shootings.
I would have known that. No,
shootings. Not even race relations.
Wow.
Yep.
One thing I've learned, like with traveling, is like we get to see the world through like American propaganda. So like all of the countries that we think, like Saudi Arabia, that's my next place I want to go to. Saudi Arabia is like one of the safest places in the world, but via the lens of America, we think these places are terrible. And likewise, they think the same thing about us because they also get the same type of words or the same point of view from a rival country. So it's interesting to think about like the way we view history and the way we like see people in different cultures, because we villainize it, but it's like it's a point of view type of thing, because they got regular people there just like we got regular people here. It's so interesting that mass shooting is the reason why, but I mean it's very likely knowing that the world we live in today. But I'm shocked.
So one day I was talking to my coworker, right? This was I think it was 2020, and he was like, "I want you to look at this clip." And then he was like, "I want you to," and he paused it. And then he said, "And I want you to tell me what country you think this is." Right. And I was like, "All right, cool." So he shows me this clip, and it was like about poverty, and these kids was looking sad, like how them animals be looking on them little PETA commercials and stuff. So the kids was looking all sad. They was hungry. They had the little pot, like asking you to put some money in their pot. And so he paused. He said, "What country do you think this is?" And I was like, "I don't know." So I started naming off like poor countries. Whole time it was an ad for hungry children in America.
Listen,
but it's what they show overseas, how they be doing us. What they show overseas.
No, let me tell y'all one that be funny to me. When you be going out, and there be stuff going on like in America, we always got some race stuff going on. You get to other countries and they be like, "I support you, Black Lives Matter," and all that. Y'all got us over here looking like
allies, though. Not for real, allies.
So, let me
y'all.
tell you this. So one thing me and and Jennifer have learned is that it's gonna cut us off at 9 o'clock. So y'all want to talk about what went on today? You drinking that straight tequila? You probably want to.
Okay, I'll pop it off. Listen, I know probably 2 people in this world who can disappear. Like, nobody's smart enough to disappear. You got CCTV. You know what I mean? You got, like, there's cameras everywhere. You can't escape. People have, like, records on your phones. Like, your phone has a tracking system and it pings to the closest cell towers. This girl trying to disappear and saying that she got kidnapped, and it's fear mongering for one, but also two, it's a responsible way to use resources, especially as a Black person, because a lot of us are popping up missing and don't nobody know where we at. So, hey, I heard the broadcast or the police report, whatever the case may be, and I was just, I don't think anybody is smart enough to, like, disappear for real. Let's talk about it.
So, okay, so look, I don't really be getting into, like, stuff like this, right? So when it happened, I very rarely share things. I just don't, right? I be praying for people, but I don't ever like sharing and stuff like that. So this time I felt led to share it because I'm like, man, like, let's find this Black girl. Like, this was a really, really sad situation, especially because she was trying to help somebody, and I almost got carjacked in April. And so I was thinking it, and it was on some slick stuff. Like, had I not been woke, I would have fell for what the man was saying to me. He was trying to get me to get out of my car because my tire was flat, right? And so I was thinking, like, you know what, that could very well have been me before I even knew all the story. However, the next day when it popped up that she had, they had found her, then it came out that she had knocked on her family's door, and I was like, something don't smell right. It's smelling very much like Jussie Smollett. Like, I was like, but I didn't say nothing, right? And so I'm in St. Martin, and we're at dinner, and we're all talking, and somebody said, I don't believe her. And I said, bruh, I didn't want to say it because I didn't want to be that person, but I'm glad we on the same page because something in the milk ain't clean. Like, I don't believe old girl. And even people at the table was kind of looking like, why would you say that? Trying to keep a Black woman down, whatever. I don't believe it. And look, one thing I know, policia gonna find out. The policia gonna get down to the truth. They and like I thought on today, on this very good God-given day.
So
you're right though. I mean,
were you getting ready to talk, Destin? I'm sorry.
2 seconds. I would just say that I'm a big true crime nerd. Like, my favorite shows are the ones about people who go missing. And sometimes I just can't find them. And one thing I would say that shook me or, like, threw me off about the whole story is, like, people buy into, like, the fear mongering nature of, like, getting kidnapped. So, like, they'll say, like, oh, there's like a pad on your window, don't wipe your windows off, or be careful when you grab your car door. It's like things that are fear mongering to make women afraid that, like, something like fishy might be happening. So when it came down to, like, a kid walking on the highway, I would think that you get at least 15 calls that say there's a kid on the highway. But the fact that you got one, I was like, no, that's somebody who probably probably saw it on Facebook that happens, and then use that story to, like, disappear in a way, because those things do happen. I'm not saying they don't, but you got to think, like, if we see a kid walking on the highway, not just one person gonna pull over, or not just one person gonna call. You're gonna get 15 on a busy highway. Like, I automatically fished it, but I'm also one of the people that's like, no, I'm gonna believe Black woman. Like, that's just what it is. But I kept quiet because I was like, if I know anything about true crime, this ain't it. So that's how I end up. I'm on the same page.
And low key, I am a detective, okay? Because I be on these true crime podcasts, okay? I got stock in the ID channel. I be knowing who killed the person on Law and Order before they even know who did it, okay?
Absolutely.
But it was several things that were suspicious. The first thing that was suspicious was the whole her being on the phone with 911 and then getting off the phone with them. I feel like if you're in an unsafe position because you're trying to go get the baby, 911 is not going to get off the phone with you, right? That was one thing. The other thing was, how come you were the only person that called and saw the baby? The other thing was the story about the man having orange hair and they didn't tie her wrists up because they didn't want her to have no dents on her arms. And I mean, just the story set, they polished your nails and they played in your hair. It was
And
sounding like
fed
she was
you
talking
cheese
to,
crackers.
like, for
Them
lack of a
cheeses you
better
bought from
phrase,
Target. But yeah.
hillbilly bush people. Like, you know what I'm saying? People who had never been anywhere, who were like, just, I don't know, cavemen. So it was just, I don't know. It was just really weird. But what is sad to me is that this is one of the few times so here in the DC area, there was a young girl that went missing. It's probably been almost 10 years. Her name was Relisha Rudd, right? And that was the first Black girl that I can remember that people was really, really out here trying to find. And I can't tell you how many more Black people have been been missing since then. We don't get that kind of publicity. So the fact that you were everywhere, you were even in
Yeah,
outlets overseas. People
yeah,
were really concerned about you. This is a rarity that you have this much attention on a young Black woman that's hurt, or you know what I'm saying, that's missing. And now you done cried wolf, and nobody's going to believe it. You know what I'm saying? That you messed it up for the next person. God
yeah.
forbid they go missing,
For
but you messed
sure.
it up.
And I know from my perspective, when I first started hearing about it, so I live in Houston and we have a lot of sex trafficking going on in Houston that's not really discussed because we have a large population that's undocumented. And so, I kind of am used to those kind of stories being hidden. And so with me not being from the area that she's from, I assumed that it was not a major highway like 85 in Atlanta or like, 59 in Houston. Like I assumed it was just maybe a road where there were not many cars coming down. I didn't realize it was an interstate. And so, when things start happening, I'm like, that sounds like a ploy that will work. Train a
Hmm.
kid, because we know kids are so, like, it's easy to obtain a baby from people that are not in the doing the right things. And so, I'm like, but as a woman or even as a compassionate human being, how could you not stop if you saw a child? So I'm like, that's going to get all of us because I'm going to stop. The
Hmm.
good thing is, sometimes I had a thing on me. But anyways, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, people are going to stop. We see a kid, people are extremely compassionate. I'm like, that's one, they're going to get us every time. And so I'm like, then I start seeing I watch a lot of YouTube, so I started seeing the YouTube previews, the comments like, no, she's lying. She just found out her boyfriend was cheating. This was a point to his attention, da da da. And I'm like, social media does a lot. They always, they said Jamie Foxx was dead. Social media always has all these theories. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna have an opinion until it's time to have an opinion. And so time going by, I'm seeing these stories. I'm like, about 3 days ago, I said, God, don't let this girl be lying, because if she's lying, I want her to go to jail. That's what I
Hmm.
said in my head. And so then I started hearing the stories, and I'm like, Black women are really coming up missing. They're coming up missing in DC. They're coming up missing in Atlanta. They're coming up missing in Houston. And this one Black woman that came up missing that we found, I'm like, this is what we need to hear, that our voices matter, that when things happen, we can speak up, and these women will be found. Whatever she was going through, if this is false, she made our voices not matter, because we spoke up and we thought our voices meant that's what got her home. Guess what? Now we are back to realizing that's not what our voices mean. We can speak up, and someone could still be found dead in the ditch. Someone could still be found, in all these other bad situations. And it's like the media doesn't take us serious unless we out here junking and jiving and being niggas. Sorry, it's not the word I wanted to use. They take us serious then. But I'm like, and so now now they have a reason to not take us serious. And Black women are coming up missing every day. So where does that leave us? It leaves us feeling like our voices don't matter. And it leaves the media feeling like every time a woman comes up missing, it can be another false thing, like what this girl did. She got to go to jail.
I
And,
want
and
my
that's
Got to go to jail.
friends back. That's what I know, is I want my friends
yeah.
back,
I
because
need
after
them.
she came back, I was out here like, God, how I said I was giving up on love. I believe in love now, because you out here working miracles, bringing people's
Yeah.
kids back.
Hmm.
Where's my husband, Lord? And now it was all a scam. I want my friends
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. I mean, I think it gets into though, like how as Black people, like we don't have room to play around. Like I think like
No.
No.
something like this. I told you I'm into true crime. I watched several true crime episodes. There's white people who have fake went missing, fake they dead. They did so many things, got caught, and like it kind of got swept under the rug. But like we don't get the same
The
publicity
same
that
kind
other
of
people
grace.
get. So that the fact that this is the one situation that happened to get this big publicity, like it became a big deal, right? And we ended up finding out that it was, a scam. It wasn't real. Like as a people, the thing that one person do reflects bad on all of us. So like you said, it takes away a little bit from our credibility because I ain't gonna lie, we rally up. Like I
Yeah.
seen people rally up for this girl, and in my heart, I was like, the baby story just ain't sit right with me. I just, a baby walk on the highway and not getting, it's a lot of theories with that, but yeah, I think it just gets into like how Blackness, like we don't have the agency to like pull these type of games. We can't do that because it looks bad on all of us.
Or even how our voice matters, because I literally made every excuse in the book. I made a major highway into a country road where she was probably the only person that would see a child because there was nobody else coming down that road for another 5 or 10 minutes. And then I made her getting dropped off at home. Well, it was too much publicity, so they went ahead and dropped her off because they didn't want one person to ruin the organization. I made a lot of excuses for her, and now look at her. Just look
Yeah.
at her.
What are your thoughts? So, what are your thoughts on like people saying stuff like, "Oh, well, mental illness is real. She might have had this mental illness." I have thoughts as a mental health professional, but I'm curious about how do you think about that? Because I think that we see people do crimes. We see people do a lot of things, offensive things, and it gets like put on mental illness. And I don't know. I'm just
I think it
Okay,
is
curious
very
about it.
sad
hold
that
on
she.
just a second, Jim. Summer Rose requests to join us. Summer Rose is my sister-in-law. She's a psychiatrist, and she's
Oh,
been coming a lot. Summer Rose requests to join us. Summer Rose, I'm talking to you. Request
oh.
to join us. But go ahead, Jen.
So I think it was very sad that what they're saying is that her boyfriend cheated on her or whatever. I think it is very sad that you felt the need to go this far for a male. I think that says a lot about her self-esteem, and low self-esteem is definitely, in my opinion, a part of mental illness. Because that can cause, that's depression, in my opinion. I think that part was very, very sad. I don't know what other mental illness it could be other than sis has low self-esteem, and she definitely was not thinking. At that point, just leave the man alone. If you want to do all this and lie and waste resources, it wasn't worth it, girl. Just leave that man alone and go find somebody else's son to play with.
So let me first give some background on my experience as a therapist. I was a school counselor for 5 years, and then I worked at a mental hospital in the intake department for 5 years, and then I've also been a therapist, like a private practice therapist, for the past year. So I have a lot of experience in being able to analyze people and getting a good idea of what kind of people needed to be admitted. Hi, Summer. Welcome. And we're going to let
Hey
you know what's her
y'all.
opinion in a moment.
Now
This is
listen,
my sister-in-law.
I don't even know how this
Hey,
works. I'm
Summer.
just here.
So my opinion is that I think that mental health is not an excuse to exhibit certain behaviors. Because I think that if your condition was to a point to where you have started fabricating these kind of things, this did not just start with this unless it was something impulsive. If she would have been somebody whose mental health disorder or whatever it was made her exhibit these kind of behaviors, this would not be the only evidence of that. And so I think with this, we can say this was something she did, whether it was impulsive, whatever it was. I don't think she meant for it to go this far. Maybe she did, but this is not a mental health disorder. This is an impulsive decision, the same kind of impulsive decision that leads to murder, that leads to rape, that leads to a lot of other conditions. But that's just my opinion. Summer, weigh in on what you think about this whole thing.
So I do not disagree in the vein of just because somebody has a mental health condition that makes it where they don't have any responsibility for their actions, right? Like, that's not what I'm saying. I don't know this girl. I don't know this girl from a can of paint. I profess to be a Christian. And so I'm also not going to say what I would do when I'm in someone else's situation, right? It's easy for us to all sit on here on the internet and say, well, what I wouldn't do and break up with the boyfriend and da 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 da, yada, 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 right? But as it relates to, in general, people with mental health conditions, they do things that don't make sense. And we don't know if this wasn't a pattern of behavior. We didn't know this girl before last weekend. And so it could be a pattern of behavior and it has escalated to this point. I don't think that mental illness can be counted out as an issue or a factor that played a role in her behavior. Not saying that that's the only thing that did, but something to consider.
I think that's valid. One of the things that Kenyatta said, somebody in our audience said, is that she didn't report herself. She just took some days. She didn't report herself missing. Her family did. And so what do you think about
all the other things? Like, it was the social media searches, the hashtag, watching the video
you
taken, how
call
do you rob a
911 with
register?
this? A fake police call will get you some time. Why did you not Google what can get you some time? You know, like, what kind of crimes are illegal?
I mean,
I don't know.
She didn't officially report herself, of course. I think adults it's legal to go missing. You don't have to tell nobody where you at. Like, you can go where you want to go. By her calling 911, she informally reported herself because she was on her phone. She reported something that she saw, and then all of her stuff was gone. Left her stuff in the car, and she wasn't there. She didn't technically do it, but she did it just by her actions. Like, she brought attention to herself by doing so. So she definitely didn't do it that way, but like, she definitely reported herself. Like, she reported herself missing by the actions that she took. And I agree with what you said. Like, yeah, these things could be, mental health can contribute to these things, but also too, I'm a big believer that, like, you still held accountable for a lot of different things. And I think when it comes down to, like, the things that you mentioned, murder, rape, something like this, like, there has to be consequences to those things. And I think we live in a world now where we value so much mental health that, like, people like to use it as like this scapegoat. But I've dealt with a wide range of people who have some mental health issues, and there are a bunch of opportunities for intervention, I will say.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And then to come back with the story also too is like, come on.
And then it was like they got the receipts where she had bought Cheez-Its and granola bars, but then that wasn't found at the scene.
She took it with her.
They feed you cheese crackers.
And then when she showed up, she had $107 stuck in her sock. Like, it's the details for me.
Yeah.
So, Instagram is going to shut us down in 1 minute. It's going to kick us off in 1 minute. So, thank you, everybody, for joining. Unless I want to keep talking until it cuts us off. But I'm just letting y'all know it's going to cut us off.
I have something to say. I'm kidding. No, but it's like,
This was fun.
Mental health is an excuse, only an explanation. Accountability matters. It makes me mad because people don't get to take mental health as something like, oh, that's my excuse for everything. Yeah. I did this. It's because I was depressed and I had anxiety. Oh, I did, like, those things are not okay, because if you recognize you have mental issues, it's your responsibility to then seek treatment for those issues, so you are held accountable. And that's it. Yep. There's therapy, there's medication. I understand with the medication thing that we still have a long way to go, but yeah.
I agree.
I second that. This was great, though. I love this. This was fun.
Yes, this was actually a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. So everybody have a good night. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you on the next episode of Sips and Trips. Bye.
Good night, everybody. Bye.